Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dungeons and Taverns. I'm your host, Saul Sunforge. A few months ago, I made a video on player etiquette, and it seemed like people liked it, and I wanted to, I wasn't sure if I was going to make a sequel video because I wasn't sure if I covered everything I wanted to there, or if there was enough left over. And with D&D, of course, there is enough left over usually, but I wanted to make sure that my main points were came across. So today I want to make a sequel to that player etiquette video, a part two, and some of the points I might cover again, but I might elaborate on them. But I am going to have quite a few new points, and they're not really in a particular order or preference or anything. Um, you know, so let's get started. Uh, the first point I wanted to make is uh, players who start fights with, impromptu fights, unprovoked fights, for instance, in town with NPCs, with, potential enemies who aren't really even enemies yet, that you just know that they're there. And somebody goes charging headlong into it, and causes a whole bunch of problems. Don't be that player. It's one thing to think, to talk to your group about a situation, and then decide to go ahead and your course of action is to fight. But maybe you have people in your party who want to try to role play their way out of a situation. Um, D&D already is like, I guess it depends on what campaign you play, but I like to play with a really good mix of role play and combat. So I try to go as close to 50-50 or 60-40 or 40-60 as I can. It just depends on what the group is really aimed towards. But even in a combat heavy party, you still might have people who may want to talk something out with a intelligent creature, a parlay, maybe make some type of trade, or it could lead to alternate quests or something. Um, so don't just go charging into every situation prepared to fight. You might have situations where you can talk your way out and avoid a fight. Speaking about fighting, um, people who control too many pets or henchmen, guardians, familiars, whatever you want to call them, mounts, and so they end up taking twice as long, three times as long, exponentially longer, because not only do they get to move their character, they get to move all their henchmen as well, and so the rest of the actual party members, it takes a lot longer to get to their turn, and so they tune out a lot easier while you're moving your 17 henchmen. Now, I like henchmen, and they're cool to use sometimes, but I make them all act on your initiative. So this way, it isn't like you go, then a party member goes, then you have a henchman goes, then a party member, then henchman, party member, henchman. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to give. It already takes too long. Combat already takes way too long in D&D. Compared to role play. Um, you know, we had a combat the other day where we only got through 6 rounds in 4 hours. Now that was because of players who constantly interrupted and things like that, and that's obviously that's a bonus rule there for you. Just don't constantly interrupt. You're gonna make combat go from a 40-minute endeavor to 4 hours out of a 5-hour session. It's just don't have consideration for other players. Um, and so don't make it very annoying with your 20 your army of henchmen, just because of how long it takes. If combat didn't take so long, I honestly wouldn't have a problem with it. It's just that for consideration of your fellow friends, most likely, at the table, or your soon-to-be friends if you're strangers. Um, Another thing that DMs don't really like from players is players who can't accept that bad things occur. Um, you know, D&D, yes, you guys are heroes, and yes, heroes succeed most of the time. But really, the most the most interesting heroes are the ones who actually have some sort of flaw, or who don't win every single time. If you want to play a game where you're going to win every single time, you can either play by yourself or just read a book or watch a movie or something. If you, just assume that you won. Um, you know, and it's not that the DM is screwing you over or something. It could be that your decision that you made just wasn't a very good one at the time, and that's fine to do. Um, just accept that you're not going to be always do everything perfectly 100% of the time. The next one is don't be an idiot player. Everybody's there to have a good time. And if you're there to ruin other people's good time, and that's your idea of a good time, then you're not a very good player. D&D is a collaborative effort, and so if you go around stealing your other party members' items and things like that, and start saying, "Oh, that's what my character would do," that's not good, man. You got to change your habits if that's you. And working against the party, that's another one too. That falls in line with that's what my character would do, honestly. But if your party has a certain goal and you're trying to disrupt it, or you're constantly doing friendly fire to hit an enemy, and your players talk to you about it, and you just keep doing it. Those are the types of things that are going to make the other party members dislike you very much. The next bad player etiquette that I want to talk about is um, players who know the rules. Other DMs, players who are usually DMing, and if they might know the rules or something better than the current DM, or even if they don't, they'll try to butt in all the time, and basically overtake the DM. Um, and if the more you've been a DM versus a player, being a player, the stronger your tendency is going to be to want to kind of you know tell the DM basically what this is the rule, you're wrong, blah blah blah, and don't come at it from that type of angle. Come at it from you're trying to help angle, and don't do it that often. Sometimes just accept the DM's ruling because it's his or her creative ruling. You know, at the spur of the moment. Callie, stop that, please. At the spur of the moment, that's his or her ruling. Callie, can you stop that, please? Daughters just likes to sabotage, man. I think I probably have maybe two more for you that I could think of off the top of my head. I'm kind of doing these off the top of my head. And another one I would say is taking too long for your turns. um, like I said earlier a few times and in many other videos, combat takes by far the longest portion of time in D&D. Sorry, my mic went out for a moment. I think combat takes the longest time by far in Dungeons and Dragons. And by you not knowing what you want to do constantly on your turn, or multiple players constantly every round not knowing what it is they want to do, within a reasonable time frame, of course. You want to give them about a minute, minute and a half at the most to come up with what they're going to do. Because if each player starts deliberating for 10 minutes on what they're going to do, each round of combat, if you have 6 players, it's going to take an hour. It's going to take an hour to get back to the top of the round to that first original person. That's way too long. Why would you expect them to pay attention? That long. And so your job as a conscious, etiquette conscious player is to just have your some of your spells maybe committed to memory, your most commonly used spells anyway, at least. And when it's somebody else's turn, think of what you want to do. Remember, all the turns happen at the same time. They're represented turn based because that's how everybody gets to ensure that they do what they wanted to do during that same allotted period of time. So you shouldn't take extra time as a reaction to what somebody else in that round did, because they would be doing it at the same time as you, and so you wouldn't be able to necessarily coordinate that unless you pick you said those things before the round started, like you go left, I go right, Johnson, you go over the middle, so whatever, and you come up with a strategy on how you're going to attack the situation. So just don't take forever, especially as spellcasters. Spellcasters are notorious for taking longer periods of time. So if you're a spellcaster, as soon as your turn is over and somebody else's turn is starting, think about the next thing you would like to do. This way you're ready to go when it's your turn to up a bat. The last point I suppose I have is don't try to take other people's roles from them. And what I mean by that is, don't try to step on their toes, so to speak. Don't take if somebody else is proficient in something and you're not, or it's their main role. Don't try to be a jack of all trades and step on everybody's feet, especially if you're dual classing. If your secondary class is druid and somebody else's primary class is druid, don't go doing druidy things over that other druid. Don't do it. Because you're going to devalue that other player's role in the party just because you decided to multi-class into their territory. If they're doing druid things and not allowing you to do it, that's not them being rude. That would be you being rude if you're doing druid things and you have a druid. Same thing with a rogue. If there's a rogue and a bard, the bard, he's usually the speaker. Rogue, usually the person who does the sneaking. Ranger might be the one who does the scouting. But if you have all these roles covered by other players, don't try to do them at this. Don't try to do multiple roles at once. And also, I guess to go with that is if you are the class. Excuse me. If your class is proficient in something, if an NPC, is engaged with a player who in the DM calls for a roll of a skill that player isn't very good at, don't try to take over the situation. Don't try to take, or for fear of them flubbing the roll because they're not as skilled and eloquent as you are. Everybody should get time to shine. Even the barbarian, he gets time to be the face, to try to be the charismatic one, and it could be a funny moment in your game. Just allow those moments to happen. I encourage you to allow those moments to happen, because in those little ooey gooey moments right there, those little tiny nuggets right there, that's where D&D is really made. And if you allow that to happen and you become a better player with hopefully my tips, or a better DM hopefully for my tips, that's great. I hope that's the case, man. So just let me know in the comments if I helped you out or if I have good tips. If I forgot anything, let me know that too. If you like my videos and you're not following yet, please, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. If you know anybody else who may be interested in the content that I provide to you, please, I encourage you to let them know. Most of our growth is going to be word of mouth for a while, until I start getting more time, somewhere along the line to do more promotions for myself. But right now, my promotions are you guys, and letting people know that you enjoy my content. And letting me know you enjoy my content means so much to me, and I thank you for watching. Have a great day.